the staff meetings. Suzanne had taken over as head of the art department, and she rang once a week or so to talk things through, although they both knew she was perfectly able to cope on her own. Suzanne probably realised how much Eve needed to feel she was still part of school life, and it was good to talk about something other than her pregnancy. "Hi, Suzanne. How's it going?"
"Fine. And you? Alex still driving you mad?"
Eve felt a flush of guilt. What had she said? It was true she was fed up with Alex treating her like an invalid, fussing over everything from how much she slept to her diet, but she must have told Suzanne more than she meant. She tried to make her voice light. "No, he's fine. It's my mum who's the real worrier. Anyway, what's up?" They spent a few minutes discussing the new exam syllabus. Then Suzanne said, her voice rising a little,
"What did you think of the link I sent you?"
"I haven't checked my phone recently."
"It's nothing urgent, just made me think of you."
When they'd said their goodbyes, Eve looked for the message. It was brief.
"Have a look at this. Any connection?"
Apart from that, there was just a link to a newspaper story. Lost artworks resurface at Baltic Gallery. Newcastle's Baltic Gallery has a new exhibition of paintings by artist Stella Carr. If you haven't heard of her, it's not because she's a new talent, but because soon after making a brief splash in the art world in 1986, she disappeared from sight and died tragically, and somewhat mysteriously, a year later at the early age of 21. If she hadn't done so, it's likely she could have been one of the leading lights in the Brit art scene of the late 80s, early 90s. At the time of her death, it seemed that the handful of her pictures seen in an exhibition of promising young artists at London's Horton Gallery were all Stella had left behind. Seeing the name of the gallery made Eve pause. Her father had been a partner there. She couldn't remember mentioning it to Suzanne, but if she had, that might explain why she'd sent the link. He'd certainly be interested, because he would have been there at the time of Stella's exhibition. She carried on reading. The ever-fickle art world moved on, and Carr was forgotten. But with this new display, it's clear that she was a considerable talent. While some of the paintings were in the Horton exhibition, and others appeared soon after, a few have never been seen before. According to the Baltic, they were her last completed works. They are giving away very little about how they came by these. All this paper could learn is that they are from a private collection. Below the article were two of the paintings. One showed a terraced hillside covered in dark trees. It was called Pines, and the second, Mermaid. This was particularly arresting. Instead of a fish's tail, the mermaid's whole body was green and almost snake-like. Only the face, beautiful but secretive with floating hair, looked human. She really liked the style. There was a freedom in the brushstrokes, a vitality about them that she loved. There was a close-up of the signature, and Eve stopped scrolling to stare at it. It wasn't a name, but a shooting star, just like the ones she used to love drawing when she was little. And something else stirred in her memory, something that made her move on faster. There was a third picture entitled Maggie and Me, and this was lovely. Two young women, both very slender, one with a mass of brown hair and the other with a tumble of russet curls. They stood in a woodland glade. Trees heavy with leaves surrounded them. Their long skirts, one green, one dark blue, floated in the breeze. Strands of hair trailed across their faces. At the bottom of the page, she found a photograph. Not very clear, but Eve saw enough to make her catch her breath. This was what Stella Carr had really looked like. She was the one with the red hair, although here it was more ginger than russet, and there was a scattering of freckles across the pale skin that the painting had omitted. She seemed to be not only slim, but small, and Eve could understand why Suzanne had sent the link now. Stella Carr was extraordinarily similar to Eve herself. Not that Suzanne could have understood.